Cesar Chavez by Ginger Wadsworth. Illustrations by Mark Schroeder. Arizona, 1933. When Cesar Chavez was 6 years old, it was time for him to start school. Cesar walked down the dusty road to school with his big sister Rita. He was scared, so he held Rita's hand. Cesar's feet hurt. He was not used to wearing shoes. Cesar's teacher shortened his name to Cesar. Cesar sounded less Mexican, the teacher said. The teacher told the children to speak English. Speaking English was hard. Everyone spoke Spanish at home. Many times Cesar forgot to speak English. Then the teacher hit his fingers with a ruler. Cesar's grandparents had been born in Mexico. Cesar's grandfather had worked for a cruel rancher. The rancher whipped his workers. Finally, Cesar's grandfather escaped to Arizona. He brought his family with him. Cesar's father, Librado, met Cesar's mother, Juana, in Arizona. She had been born in Mexico too. Cesar was born near Yuma, Arizona. Richard and Lenny were Cesar's little brothers. Vicky was the baby. They lived in a house made of thick adobe bricks. The house stayed cool in the summer and warm in the winter. At night, Cesar watched his father make toy cars from tin cans and small pieces of wood. Cesar and his brothers played with their cars on the floor. At bedtime, their grandmother listened to the children's prayers. Everyone in the Chavez family worked on their farm. Cesar's father planted seeds in the dirt. He hoed away the weeds. He dug ditches to bring water from the river to the farm. Without water, the crops could not grow. Cesar and Richard fed the horses, cows, and chickens. They gathered eggs. Rita washed clothes by hand. Juana made tortillas from ground corn. Their family was poor, but Juana still invited homeless people to eat with them. No one should go hungry, she believed. Cesar's aunts, uncles, and cousins lived nearby. Sometimes they came to the Chavez farm for fiestas. Everyone ate a lot of good food. Cesar and his cousins swam in the ditches. They rode horses and climbed trees. It was a good life. Hard times, 1930s. In the 1930s, millions of people lost their jobs. Banks closed, so did many stores. Many people did not have enough money to buy food. They had to sell their homes and farms. It was the Great Depression. The Chavez family still had lots of milk, eggs, and vegetables. They had enough to sell and enough to eat. Then there was a drought. Without rain, the ditches dried up. Without water, the family could not grow crops. There wasn't enough corn for the chickens to eat. So the chickens stopped laying eggs. There wasn't enough grass for the cows to eat, so the cows stopped making milk. In 1938, Cesar's family had to sell their land. They drove to California to look for work. Cesar was 11. There were lots of big farms in California. The farmers needed people to plant and weed and pick the crops. People traveled from farm to work. They were called migrant workers. In the spring, the Chavez family planted seeds. It was cold in the fields. Usually, Cesar was barefoot. Shoes cost too much money. It was hot work in the summer. Cesar chopped weeds with a short-handled hoe. His back hurt. It was hard to bend over all day. Sometimes the field smelled of poisons called pesticides. The farmer sprayed pesticides to kill insects that might eat the plants. Some of these pesticides made the workers sick. The children pulled oranges and lemons from the trees. They picked peas, beans, and cotton. The workers filled boxes with fruits and vegetables. They were paid by the weight of each box. Everyone in the family worked. It was the only way they could earn enough money. If a family would not work for low pay, there was always another family to take its place. When the crops were picked on one farm, the Chavez family drove to another. They needed the money. The Chavez family stayed in farm camps for migrant workers. The farm camps were crowded and dirty. The Chavez family squeezed into a shack. It had a dirt floor and no bathroom. When it rained, everything got wet. There was lots of mud. Many farm camps had tents, not shacks. The tents were small. Cesar and Richard had to sleep outside. Rita slept in the car. Juana cooked outside in a big metal can. She still fed anyone who was hungry. When they needed food, Cesar's parents shopped in the nearest town. Signs over some stores said white trade only. Cesar's family was Mexican. They could not shop at those stores. Cesar missed Arizona. He wanted to ride a horse. He wanted to climb a tree. When his toy car was stolen, Cesar wanted to hurt whoever took it. Juana told her son not to fight. It takes two to fight, she always said. Fix your problems with words, she added. Growing up, 1942. When he was 15, Cesar met Helen Favela in Delano, California. Her parents were in Delano to pick cotton. Cesar and Helen married in 1948. Their first son, Fernando, was born the next year. More children soon followed. Cesar and Helen worked hard. They picked beans, strawberries, and other crops. They were each paid about $1 an hour. It was not enough money for food, clothes, or a simple house. Cesar believed that migrant families deserved better. Cesar read books about leaders. He wanted to learn how they helped people improve their lives. Then Cesar met Dolores Huerta. She helped Mexican-American farm workers. He met Fred Ross. Fred wanted the migrant workers to become U.S. citizens. Then they could vote. They could vote for workers' rights. Dolores and Fred had some good ideas. They believed that people together could make changes in their lives. Even poor Mexican Americans together had power. Like his mother, Cesar wanted to help other people. So Cesar helped Mexican Americans sign up to vote. Cesar and Dolores started a union, a group of workers. It was the first union for farm workers in the United States. Cesar traveled all over California. He talked to workers in farm towns. If they joined the union, he told them they would be a team. They could ask the farm owners for changes. If the owners said no, the union could go on strike. All the people in the union would stop working until the changes were made. Many of the workers listened to Cesar. He was a good leader. Maybe he was right. They were tired of living in a shack or tent. They wanted clean water to drink. They didn't want to work near the pesticides that made them sick. The changes would be hard to get. They knew. Cesar knew it too. But he would try. And he would do it peacefully. Cesar did not believe in fighting with his fists. Many people thought that Cesar would fail. Rich families or big companies owned most farms. Cesar was poor, he had dark skin, and he was only a farm worker, one of thousands. Action! 1965. Cesar was becoming a strong union leader. The union decided it was time to strike. The workers would not pick grapes in California. Grapes rotted on the vines. The farm owners lost money. Cesar asked shoppers to stop buying grapes. Many families listened. They did not buy grapes. Some stores would not even sell grapes. Many drivers would not carry grapes in their trucks. The farm owners lost more money. The workers worried. They weren't being paid. How would they feed their families? They would have to find work picking other crops. Cesar told them to be patient. Workers have rights, he said. A year passed. It was time to tell more people about the strike. Cesar led a march of workers to the capital city of California in 1966. It took them 25 days to walk 300 miles from Delano to Sacramento. The word spread. Workers from other states came to walk with Cesar. Actors, students, and government leaders joined the marches. Along the way, other farm workers gave them food and water. Cesar's feet hurt. He had a high fever, but he kept walking. People read about the march in newspapers. They saw news about it on television. Some people agreed that migrant farm workers should be helped. Other people disagreed. The grape strike continued. In more and more states, Americans stopped buying grapes. Cesar and the union were making a difference. After 5 years, the owners of the grape farms finally gave in. The grape strike ended in 1970. The workers got better pay. They got some money for doctors. Cesar was tired but happy. It was a good start. The farm workers went back to work. After the strike, 1970, Cesar and Helen lived simply. They had 8 children. The union paid for their home and food. Cesar had enough money to support his family. Every day, Cesar worked for the union. He went to meetings. He led new marches. He gave speeches. He wanted to make sure all farm workers were treated fairly. Sometimes he was gone from home for weeks. He was always tired. Cesar died one night in 1993. His kind heart had worn out too soon. He was only 66. California state flags were lowered to half-mast to honor Cesar. His brother Richard made him a pine coffin. Cesar was buried near the Llano. About 40,000 people came to his funeral. Most of them were migrant farm workers. All of his life, Cesar helped others. He helped with his words, not with his fists.